Hi everybody, it is April and I'm in my craft room, and today we are going to make a quilt that will make you want to howl. Oh! We recently went on a quilt shop hop in Indiana where we stopped at the Quilter's Nook, and I will put information about them below. That is where I found this panel. And it's got this gorgeous moon and this beautiful black cat, and that's why it makes me want to howl, because, you know, I want to howl at the moon. I bought some coordinating fabric for this particular panel, and then I just so happened to open an email from equilter.com, and look what I found. A free pattern for this panel and the coordinating fabrics. So that is what we're going to make today.
Yippee! Yippee!
Now let me share with you what else I have to use besides just this fabric panel. This fabric by Wilmington Prints Scarlet Dance. This is a coordinating fabric for the Black Cat Caper panel. Here is another coordinating fabric for the Black Cat Caper panel. This is by Michael Miller Fabrics, Creepin' It Real. Fancy Candy Corn Spooky Night. Here is a batik fabric in orange, and here is a strip fabric, Black Cat Capers by Northcott. The first thing the pattern calls for is cutting down your panel. So I will do that off to the side. The main part of this tutorial is going to be how to make the square in a square block. I did not have the fabric that they used in order to make the square in a square block, so I improvised. What I decided that I wanted to do, because I don't have the exact fabric that they used to make their square in a square, is I would have one square in a square that had the dark square in the middle and the orange batik around the outer edge. And then I would make another square that had the light in the middle, and I would put this on the outer edge. The squares are pretty easy to make. It just so happens that I have a little AccuQuilt Go. This is actually called a 4-inch finished square. Yeah, it's triangles, but it says quarter square triangle 4 inches. And this is what I'm supposed to do on this pattern. Fancy that. Then I got a 4 3/4 inch square die from AccuQuilt. I didn't get this die by the time that I needed it to do this video, so I did it the old-fashioned way. I pulled out my handy-dandy ruler. I cut 4 3/4 inch strips, and then from those I cut each strip 4 3/4 inches across and came up with, you got it, 4 3/4 inch squares. I measured 4 3/4, which is right here. Here we've got our strip that's 4 3/4. We are going to measure it this way to make 4 3/4 inch squares. And we'll measure 4 3/4. And then we have 2 squares that are 4 3/4. I did, however, have my triangle, and I did use this to cut my triangles. So let me show you how you can cut your fabric using these tools. Here is my die. Now I need to figure out how wide I need to cut my fabric so that I can put a strip across here. Here, we don't know how long it is, but I can tell whether or not my fabric goes over the ends. What I want to do is measure this piece that's going to cut out my fabric, and it is 2.5 inches. So if I cut my fabric at 2 3/4 inches, this will cut my triangles. I measure 2 3/4. It's going to be right there. I have 2 3/4, which covers up my die. Here is my Go Baby. I'm going to open it up. I have a cutting mat that I will place here. I will put my die here, and it is amazing how easy it is to crank this. I thought it was going to be hard. You lift up. There's a little static going on here. And here you have multiple pieces of your square in your square. The great thing about this is, instead of having those sharp edges, it trims these off, so you don't have to trim it. If you don't have the Go Baby, you'll need to cut 4-inch squares and cut them on the diagonal. You're going to take your 4 3/4 inch block and your they call this a 4.5 inch triangle in the pattern. You're going to sew it on opposite sides of the square. It doesn't matter which two sides, you just sew it on opposite sides. You use a 1/4 inch seam, and then you are going to press them open. The next step is to take your two 4.5 inch triangles and sew those on opposite sides of one another and press those open, and you've got your square in a square. You will be making 26 blocks like this. And then what you will do is you will sew your blocks together to form your border. Let me show you what not to do. Notice my blocks have non-directional fabric. I have a candy corn toss, I have a bat toss, and I have a kitty cat toss. I did consider using a directional fabric. I thought this kitty cat would be adorable. And this kitty cat would be adorable. However, if you do have a directional fabric, make sure that you cut your square like this and not like that. Or otherwise, they're going to be on an angle. And if being on an angle doesn't bother you, then it certainly isn't going to bother me. But I thought I would point that out. Once we have all of our strip sets put together, let's read the directions. We need strips to go around our panel in order to make this all come together. A cool thing about this pattern is it shows you exactly how to piece everything together. So I'm going to cut my strips out like it calls at 1.5 inches. So it says I need 4 strips at 1.5 inches to do my border. Here is my cat panel cut down with the border. Now I'm going to add my strips of square in squares. You have a strip of 7 square in squares on one side and a strip of 7 square in squares on the other. You put them on each side, and then you're going to add your 6 square in squares across the top and the bottom. So I've got my squares in my squares. Kind of looks like argyle. And the pattern has you adding more borders. I don't plan on doing that. I am just going to add this stripe around the outside of my existing panel and squares in squares. One reason, I don't feel like making any more borders. Another reason is because I only got 2 yards of this, and it actually calls for 2 1/4 yards if you follow the pattern exactly. Let's cut this up. Now the pattern shows mitering the corners, and I'm not going to miter the corners because I'm in a hurry and Halloween is very, very close. I'll miter the corners another day. My quilt top is done and I love it. I have an affinity for black cats. I have no idea why, so it doesn't matter probably how this turned out. I was gonna love it no matter what. This wide border took a panel and it made it really big. I mean, this sucker is big. I will put the size in the description below. Have a great day, eat some chocolate, and be kind to everyone. And see you next time. Ow! I bought the, this is by Michael Miller Fabric, Keeping It Real. That's not right. The pattern, blah, 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 blah. Notice my blocks are made of directional fabric.